Haribol, this is Sri Radha Govinda. Today I wanted to share with you three important lessons that I learned because of a mistake that I did. So, this is not the first time I do this mistake, but uh, a few months ago, I got into a project. I trusted certain people and got into a project, and there was a gut feeling, a gut message like, be careful, don't do this. But I wasn't obviously listening to it. And then things didn't really go well with the person, and everything was like messy. And one of the important things that I realized was, among the three things, how important self dialogue is and needs to be in these circumstances when we make a mistake. There is a critical voice jumping up and getting out of control, and I told you so. And then I was just observing how Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita also says, like, the mind can be your best friend or the worst enemy. And this process of self dialogue is something I was going through personally. There was that voice saying, I told you to not do this. How could you do this to me? Why did you not listen to me? And there was a lot of critical thinking. So then I basically figured it out like in three steps. On one level, I could get into whole process of denial and blame the other person and make the other person responsible and feel like a victim. On another level, of course, the level of blaming and feeling victim is totally in the mode of ignorance. It's tamoguna, according to Bhagavad Gita. Krishna is very clear that lamentation and feeling victim, depression is all in the mode of ignorance. It's tamoguna. But in the mode of passion, I could kind of, I'm not going to do this thing ever again. I'm not going to trust anybody ever again. And feel that sense of shame and guilt and blaming ourselves too much. That can also lead to depression. That can also lead to a sense of taking, again, like making enemies with the mind. So, okay, self-dialogue. I've been doing a lot about inner child work, like looking at my own self as like a child that I need to take care of. There's a whole ACA program. This is like adult child of dysfunctional families, or having certain kind of upbringing and going through certain emotional blocks can actually bring us to that point of not having a proper dialogue with ourselves. So I basically sat down and what triggered me was I was in the park, and there's a particular person that walked by that didn't even pay much attention to me, but I actually was observing how this person is actually so determined in life. And then I started thinking, why am I not like that? Why am I not so cautious? Why am I not so determined? Why do I trust people? Why do I? So there was a critical voice that was going on, saying, you're bad, you make wrong decisions, you trust the wrong people. There was this constant, like a flow of, like a stone of criticism. And then I said, oh, wait a minute, I need to sit down and dialogue better. Let's see what kind of self-dialogue brings me to that point of sattva guna, or in the mode of goodness. How can I be productive and efficient? So these are the things I came up with. First of all, instead of getting into that hopeless mood and trying to blame ourselves or blame other people, getting more into that sense of balance, acknowledging that I have a tendency to make mistakes in this area. I have a pattern of doing this, and acknowledging my part in it and acknowledging the other person's part. Because when I acknowledge mine, it doesn't mean that I take all the responsibility on myself, but having that equal sense of balance in both levels. And on the other side, also taking responsibility doesn't necessarily mean that I have to accept the other person, or forgiveness doesn't necessarily mean that you keep tolerating it. You still have to draw boundaries. Another thing was also about that commitment, self-commitment. In that dialogue, I talk to myself and say, okay, this and this and this you did mess up here, and this is what you need to be careful. And also a sense of commitment to say, okay, it won't happen again. I will be more careful. So this kind of dialogues really strengthens the inner self. In the Enneagram type, personality type, which I'll be sharing more, I have been studying a lot about it. I'm also working on a book about Enneagram. So the heart types, the 2s and the 3s and the 4s, there is a tendency to take too much blame and then live in that. So it's very important to kind of have that reassurance with ourselves, saying, okay, this is not going to happen again. I'm going to be with you. And again, making the mind a friend by saying, I'm going to be with you. I'm not going to let you down. I'm not going to abandon you in this situation because I was responsible to bring you here. I am sorry that I went overboard. I am sorry I was passionate. I am sorry that, the self-apologizing process, the step of self-apologizing and saying, I am sorry I let you down. I'm sorry I stressed you so much and pushed you into doing things that were burdensome. And I'm sorry you had to stay up long hours trying to make this work. I am, like, one of my things was, I'm sorry I'm comparing myself with others. I'm comparing you and your skills and your talent and your self-development with others. I am sorry I'm doing that. I must not be doing it. And sit down and try to do the other side of it, saying, yes, the other person is very cautious, etc., but you also have your strengths, such as you come from a traditional family which gave you a sense of connection with the deities. This was my dialogue. So this person may be cautious in selecting the people they work with or friends, but I have a strength to connect with the higher beings. So, finding that positive thing that I can talk to that inner child and say, bring her out of that lamentation mood, bring her out of that passionate mood, and stick more to the, if there are 95% negative things, focus on the 5% that is positive. So only we can do it with ourselves. Even to be able to reach out to a good, right friend, we need to have enough self-dialogue to reach to the new friend. And the second lesson I learned is about self-compassion. And self-compassion, again, essentially is not about telling I am not wrong, the other person is wrong. That's not self-compassion. Self-compassion is to be honest with ourselves, to honest with God, and bringing up all our resentments and handing it over to God, and not reading on it, not keeping it inside and letting that ruin us. Because I have not been, let's say, responsible in making certain choices in my life. So at that point, self-compassion means to acknowledge that I am sorry that I wasn't conscious of the consequences of what I was doing, and I am responsible for it, but it won't happen again. I'm with you. So I am with you is a dialogue that begins with us. Of course, God is with us always, but the self-dialogue brings us a proper balance of where I am, where am I going wrong, what are my patterns, and at the same time giving that sense of soothing energy to not abandon ourselves. Again, it very much depends on our attachment styles. It depends very much on our upbringing and the dysfunctionality with our families as to how much of that critical thinking comes in. For some people, such as the 8s and the 9s and the 1s, there can be a lot of denial in even accepting that it's our mistake. So there are different categories of people that can face this in different depth. And self-compassion also means expressing remorse over the situation. I am sorry I squandered my energy, my time. I am sorry that I wasn't careful. This same thing. So if you had a child that you needed to converse with and have this dialogue, what would we say? So we do the same thing, and we don't let ourselves down. And then the third thing is also about the listening to our instincts, listening to that gut. There is human design. Okay, this is one of the systems that I use to coach people, and I do training seminars on human design as well. The human design also gives us a very clear indication of what is the best way for us to make decisions. So for some of us, we have that gut instinctual voice that says, don't do this, no, don't take this person, or don't get into this project right now, or don't go to that place. And the opposite as well, go here, go there. You can also call it Paramatma, but Paramatma in the sense that inner voice, the presence of divine within us. But it is also karmic. It is very much based on our specific karma, that what is our instinct. For some people, it's emotion is their, what we call in human design as authority center. So when the emotions is the authority center, it goes in waves. It's never like a straight line of decision. It's always like going in waves. And for somebody who is like the gut, their their specific chakra is their authority center, there is a clear inner voice saying, do this or don't do this. So that's another thing I also was thinking I should listen more to, cultivate that sense of listening to my authority center, and to value those feelings and emotions. So if you are going through a situation where you're blaming yourself, you're going through a situation where you messed up, it's time to note down the patterns and learn those lessons, and try to do these three things: self-dialogue, self-compassion, and recognizing the way to make right decisions for yourself. I hope this video has helped you in some way, but these are the three lessons that I learned from this experience.